In 2024, Bellingham was arguably Real Madrid's best player. Clutch goals, week after week. Oh, that is absolutely magnificent. That was Bellingham at his best. Iconic celebration. The Bellingham train was in full motion. The man for the big occasions. But the arrival of Mbappe changed everything, from a Ballon d'Or contender to just an ordinary player. What happened to Jude Bellingham? When the turtle arrived, the first sacrifice was Jude. Even though he's a key part of Madrid's future, he had to settle for something different this year. To get the best out of the Frenchman, Jude was pushed into a deeper midfield role. And here's the funny part. If you'd said a few years ago that Bellingham would be underused as a central midfielder, people would have laughed. Because back at Birmingham, that's mainly where he played. At first, he played out wide. It looked like it was just to help him settle in, but it became clear he was way more effective in the middle of the pitch. What people loved was that he wasn't afraid to put in a tackle. That mentality, at such a young age, stood out. He didn't want to be boxed in as just a number 6 or a number 10. He wanted to do it all. Defend, carry the ball, create chances, score goals. Still, you could tell, this was a player to watch. Is this his moment? It just might be a huge moment for Jude Bellingham. And yes, he even set up a last-minute equalizer against Charlton Athletic. No surprise, it came from a bit of Jude Bellingham magic. It was obvious he was special. That's why Birmingham did something almost unheard of. They retired his number 22 shirt. Just 17 years old, leaving the club. People laughed at the decision. But who's laughing now? In July 2020, the fairy tale at Birmingham came to an end. Borussia Dortmund signed him for £25 million, a record fee for someone his age. It was a massive step up, but Jude wasn't there to sit and wait. He was ready from day one. In his very first match in the German Cup, he made an impact, scored on his debut, became the youngest goalscorer in Dortmund's history in a competitive match. A perfect start. But what really stood out? The way he played, he wasn't stuck as a number 10 or a defensive mid. He was a true number 8. A box-to-box engine at the heart of it all. His work rate was unreal. He covered every blade of grass. And at that time, Dortmund were going through coaches like socks, manager after manager. But no matter who was in charge, Jude always started. And then came that special goal against Manchester City, Champions League quarter-finals, just 17 years old. That same season, he lifted his first major trophy, the DFB Pokal. And over time, his influence kept growing. He wasn't just a workhorse. He did far more than that. He wanted the ball at his feet. He controlled games. Sometimes, he even wore the captain's armband, becoming the first English teenager to captain a team in the Champions League. In the 2023 season, Jude Bellingham reached a new level. He rose above expectations. Match after match, he kept getting better. He played as a classic box-to-box central midfielder. Not a false 9, not a number 10, not a defensive midfielder either. And yet, he scored 14 goals and provided 7 assists. He played almost every minute. But even with all that effort, it wasn't enough. Dortmund had a rare chance to win the Bundesliga. And then, they collapsed. Again. But even with that heartbreak, Bellingham had done more than enough. At just 19 years old, he was named Bundesliga Player of the Season. He also won the Golden Boy Award in 2023. The world's biggest clubs were watching, and one of them made their move, Real Madrid. And just like that, the boy who left Birmingham for Dortmund was headed to the biggest stage of them all. In Madrid, everything changed. Under Carlo Ancelotti, the man with the eyebrows, Jude wasn't used as a traditional midfielder anymore. No more box-to-box. Instead, he was given a free attacking role. A mix between a false 9 and a number 10. It was a gamble, but Ancelotti believed Jude had what it takes. And he was right. Bellingham exploded right out of the gate. In his first 13 matches, he scored 13 goals. Those stats were crazy for a midfielder, especially one new to La Liga. No one really expected it. Madrid didn't have a proper striker, so Jude stepped up. He became the main man. His last-minute winner at the Bernabeu in his very first home match sent fans into a frenzy. In a world where clubs spend 100 million on flops, Jude Bellingham showed what real value looks like. World-class quality, a difference maker, and credit to the manager. Ancelotti's system, a 4-3-1-2, fit Bellingham perfectly. We saw the proof in El Clásico, October 2023. Madrid were trailing against Barcelona. Then, Bellingham took over. First, a rocket from 25 yards, top corner, stunning finish. Then, deep into stoppage time, he slipped into the box and scored again. A match-winning brace. In his very first Clásico, on the biggest stage, he delivered. Bellingham completed the comeback and thrived in his new attacking role, combining with Vini, creating and scoring goals. Despite his freedom up front, he stayed committed defensively, tracking back, helping off the ball, and making key tackles when needed. He helped Madrid win the double, the Champions League and La Liga. In La Liga, he was Real Madrid's best player. He carried the team when Vini was injured. He stepped up to the Ballon d'Or podium, won the Copa Trophy, becoming the first Englishman to ever win it. At one point, he had a better goal record in his debut season than Cristiano Ronaldo. He scored so many decisive goals, you couldn't call it luck. In just 1 year, Bellingham went from a talented teenager to a global superstar. But how can a midfielder do all the things forwards are supposed to do? That's the thing. He's not just a midfielder, he's a superstar. Now, football is always evolving, and Bellingham's role at Madrid evolved too. With Mbappé now on the left wing, Ancelotti made changes. At the start of the new season, Madrid switched to a 4-3-3. Mbappé became the central striker, and Bellingham dropped deeper, playing as a central midfielder again. That was a big change from the 4-4-2 diamond they used the year before to win the double. In that system, Bellingham played between a false 9 and a number 10. If you look at his heat map, he was everywhere. But his real danger came around the box. That's where he scored most of his goals. With no true striker, Bellingham thrived in attack, scoring from solo runs and long shots, not just tap-ins. He had full freedom in the final third, like an English gullet. But with Mbappé central and Vini on the left, Jude was pushed deeper, starting his runs from midfield to keep balance. If you want to understand how much extra work Bellingham had to do, look at Madrid's Champions League loss to Milan. Running, creating, tracking back, breaking lines. He played as both a number 9 and 10, making the attacking runs Mbappé didn't. Even from a deeper role, he led counters and covered defensively. Sometimes, he was pushed wide left just to balance the team. And these tactical changes started to show, not just on the pitch, but also in how people talked about Jude. That had always been the goal. Mbappé is their new shiny toy, and they're willing to sacrifice anyone to make it work for him. In his first season at Madrid, Bellingham couldn't stop scoring. Week after week, it was the bird celebration. But fast forward a bit, and it's a different story. As Mbappé stole the spotlight and headlines, Bellingham kept working, harder than ever. The goals slowed, and so did the praise, but Jude remained vital. He led Madrid in duels, tackles, and pressing, stats that win games, not headlines. And when given freedom to attack again, he delivered. He scored against Man City, against Atalanta. In late November and December, he scored in 6 straight La Liga matches. So no, he didn't slow down. But 2 things made people miss it. First, Madrid were underperforming as a team. And second, expectations were sky high because of his first season. Then came Euro 2024. While critics focused on Vini's struggles, Bellingham quietly starred for England as a number 10 in a 4-2-3-1. With freedom from Southgate, he scored, created, defended, and delivered a clutch bicycle kick in a knockout game. The more freedom Jude gets, the more he delivers. Ancelotti moved Bellingham back to the number 10 role in a 4-2-3-1. He thrived, and so did Madrid. But in the very next game, he was pushed to left midfield again. That's the issue. Without a tempo-setting midfielder behind him, his impact is limited. Back in 2024, Jude Bellingham thrived with Toni Kroos behind him, controlling tempo and recycling possession. But Kroos is gone, and no one at Madrid can fill that role. Bellingham isn't a deep-lying playmaker, and playing him in multiple roles actually underuses him. Because of poor recruitment, Madrid asks Jude to do everything, and while he's good enough to try, it dilutes his impact. When he's free to create and score, you see his best self, the 2024 version, who deserved the Ballon d'Or. He's still the heart of Madrid, making key plays, covering others, and leading on the pitch. While Vinny leads emotionally, Jude leads with actions. In 2025, as others miss penalties or fall short, Jude quietly carries the load. He's one of the most complete midfielders in the world and should be Madrid's attacking focal point. He's not just there to do the dirty work, he's the engine, the spark, and the finisher. And the most exciting part? He's still getting better. This is just the beginning.